All right, thank you, sir. Welcome everybody to the September 1st, 2020 City Council meeting. And our first item of business this evening is 2 executive sessions. And I'll entertain a motion to enter into the executive session number 1 and 2.
I make a motion.
Okay, it's a motion by Councilor Khalid. Is there a second? And there's a second by Councilor Jensen. And for the public's sake, this is an executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Section 405-6-6A to discuss a personnel matter regarding the search for a new public works director. The second executive session is an executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Section 405-6C to discuss an economic development issue of which the premature disclosure of information would prejudice the competitive bargaining position of the city of Lewiston. With that said, can we call the roll?
Sure. Counselor from Ward 1?
Present.
We'll need a yes or no on the executive session vote.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 2?
Yes.
Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Thank you. And Ward 7?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you, and we'll see you over at the executive session meeting.
Oops.
Okay, it looks like we're all back. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the September 1st, 2020 Lewiston City Council meeting. This session will be conducted remotely and council members will only participate electronically. Our first two agenda items were executive sessions. This session, for those viewing online, please ensure that you join this meeting using the following website address, www.lewistonmaine.gov/2020cc. If you joined using any other link, you may have trouble connecting properly, and we encourage you to log out and rejoin the meeting using the correct website. Public comment on any item appearing on the agenda may be sent to publiccomment@lewistonmaine.gov prior to or during the meeting, and all comments received will be forwarded to the City Council. Members of the public who are logged into the meeting online can make comments when invited to do so by raising your hand button. Once they are acknowledged, their microphone will be unmuted and they will be invited to make brief comments. Councilors are also asked to use the raise your hand button. And Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll for attendance purposes.
Sure. Counselor from Ward 1,
Present.
Ward 2,
Here.
Ward 3,
Present.
Ward 4,
Here.
Ward 5,
Present.
Ward 6,
Here.
and Ward 7.
Present.
Thank you. Also in attendance this evening for the record is Mayor Kayer, who is presiding over the meeting, as well as Dennis Dote, the city administrator, Dale Dowdy, the deputy city administrator, Heather Hunter, the finance director, and myself as city clerk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First item up is a update, if any, on the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple things. We're continuing to operate City Hall as we've discussed in the past. We are currently reviewing current CDC guidelines. We may be making some small tweaks, but I don't think there'll be hopefully changes that the public will notice. But we're continuing to monitor CDC guidelines and DECD guidelines as we proceed. I think Dennis may also have a brief update as well.
Yes, just a quick follow-up. It was asked, I believe it was, about 3 weeks ago now, for us to look at other alternatives or just options of returning the council back to either, in the chambers, and how we could, look at some, the public comment and such like that. So we have looked at a few options. The middle school was, I'll just talk about that. That was raised actually in the meeting to look at that, seemed to have the technology, I believe, behind it. We don't believe that's a viable option given the school startup and obviously trying to maintain cleanliness and juggle, I think, everything else that they've got to work with. It just doesn't seem like the right move for us to bring in public and try to introduce that and increase that cleaning and just burden on the school, I think, under the circumstances. We actually believe that the option still best would be to get some type of option here within the city council and in the chambers. So we have some concerns. We looked at, could we do a hybrid model? Actually, from what we're understanding is actually similar to what the school committee did last night. So we're going to look a little bit at what they did and have our staff connect with them. Our concerns under that model, and it seems like the school committee got around it. So we're going to try to understand a little bit what they did tech-wise, because the concern was over audio and visual, and really just could do it, but it really wouldn't be the best quality, and we were concerned. But it does appear that they may have come up with a solution. We want to understand that. So we'll still continue to look at that. And then the other option that we looked at was more or less, and this seemed to be the one that is the best that we've seen is having the council in the chambers, socially distanced. We would not be able to keep you all up on the dais, but we would have to actually spread you around. We did one meeting before we went fully remote, if you recall, that was set up that way with tables on the side. And then we would actually set up our rear admin conference room where you actually go into for executive session normally. And we would set that up in chairs and rows and put a TV in there where members of the public could actually socially distance in that room. And as they wanted to make public comment, we would bring them up one at a time into the podium and then return them back to the public room or waiting room or whatever we want to call it. So that's, some other communities are doing it that way. There's a whole different host of them, but those were kind of where we are. We're not quite ready to do that. I understand that, but just as a matter of follow-up, we wanted to make sure that you knew that we are still continuing to look at that as part of our overall response. And I think we'll give another update here in the near future once we really dial in. But I think we're down to really those last two options I just discussed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council reference the update? Okay, seeing none, we'll move. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of August 18th, 2020.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Clement,
I move we dispense with the reading of the minutes, accept them as prepared by the clerk, and spread them amongst the records.
thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved by Councilor Clement, seconded by Councilor LaJoy. Call the roll.
Sure. Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Ward 2.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We're at the public comment period. Any member of the public may make comments regarding issues pertaining to Lewiston city government that are not on the agenda. And 3 minutes would be allowed per speaker. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a comment? Okay, seeing none. We'll move to the consent agenda.
And we'll just note for the record, Mr. Mayor, that all roll call votes for this meeting will begin with the councilor of Ward 3.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
The consent agenda consists of 3 items this evening. Item number 1, amendment to the traffic schedule to add stop signs on Coburn Street at the intersections with Hall Street and Hackett Street. Number 2, authorization to accept transfer of forfeiture funds. And number 3, order authorizing execution of municipal quitclaim deeds for real estate located at 9 Boston Avenue, 20 Leland Street, 19 Robinson Gardens, 48 Spring Street, and 76 Switzerland Road.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Clement, seconded by Councilor Ray. Call the roll.
Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Ward 2.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, please.
Item number 4, public hearing and first passage to amend the land use code and map regarding the revised site plan review and design guidelines and design Lewiston project. Requested action to approve first passage of the proposed amendments to the land use code and map regarding the revised site plan review and design guidelines, and to continue the public hearing for final passage to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to do it kind of simultaneously. I'm going to open the public hearing. And Dale, if you can keep an eye in case anyone has questions, just let me know. And Doug, I would assume you're going to give us a very brief kind of review of your last presentation. And you're on mute.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
and
you,
City
sir.
Council members. Yes, I'll be brief. I think you've been through 2 different workshops where all of this material was presented to you. The first item on your agenda, which was number 4 on your agenda, actually consists of 3 different parts. There is the text amendments to a number of articles of the zoning ordinance that relate to supporting and governing the Design Lewiston project. The second component is a zoning map amendment to rezone properties along Pine Street that is currently zoned community business to be zoned to downtown residential. And then there are other areas that are currently zoned neighborhood conservation B that would also be zoned to downtown residential. And then the third component of this first agenda item is to adopt, to change the zoning to add a design district overlay district in the downtown area for the riverfront, Mill, Centreville, and the downtown residential zone to then be able to be under the standards that are also part of the text amendment. So we can implement the design standards for the downtown area, the overlay district. And so those are the 3 different components. As you've mentioned, we gave you a pretty detailed presentation at your August 4th workshop. And I'll be more than happy to go over any of this. I've got, I could share screens of the mapping or whatever your preference would be, and or answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the council? Okay, and I'm not seeing any public comments at this point. Okay. Hold on one sec. So is there a motion on the table, Kathy, or not?
No, not yet.
And okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second the motion.
Okay, moved by Councilor Khalid and Councilor Jensen seconded, but Councilor Clement was right behind you. So, all right, one more check of attendees, and I see no public comment, so I'll close the public comment portion. And one last call, any questions or comments from the council?
Move the question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seeing no questions or comments from the council, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Ward 2.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Just real quick on moving the question, that would require a motion, discussion. So just, we're not going to move questions unless there's been a long debate. I just want to explain that, Councilor Clement, so you're aware. I know the school committee's been doing that a lot lately, but I'm not sure it's been procedurally correct. Agenda item number 5, please.
Item number
Okay.
5, resolve adopting the amended site plan review and design guideline standards entitled Design Lewiston. Requested action to adopt the resolve adopting the amended site plan review and design guideline standards entitled Design Lewiston.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Clement, seconded by Councilor Pettingill, and I'll open the public hearing. And take it away, Doug. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again. So again, this is the second component agenda item, excuse me, number 5. At your July 14th workshop, we gave a pretty detailed presentation of all the elements, graphics of what the site plan review and design guidelines, also known as Design Lewiston, involved. Briefly, it involves 2 major parts. One are citywide design guidelines, which are just going to be recommendations that hopefully will encourage developers and people who are doing development to do good design principles when they do their projects. Again, these are, generally speaking, they're recommendations, not requirements. The second part of the design Lewiston site plan review and design guidelines do involve the standards for the design district overlay, which you just took action on. Again, those are the 4 districts in our downtown core. And so the design Lewiston document described graphically and in pretty clear terms of the standards that are expected to be met, excuse me, in the downtown area for infill development and redevelopment purposes. So we're very excited about the product. We think it's going to be really helpful to developers to guide them again in creating quality development in Lewiston, while at the same time not putting a burden on increasing development costs. So that's in a nutshell the summary of what that's about, and we're very pleased to present this to you tonight.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, and seeing no hands raised from the public, I'll close the public comment period. Last call for the council on questions or comments. Councilor Jelinas.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say that I'm just really excited about this whole Design Lewiston plan, and just kudos to you for the work well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I see a few councilors nodding their heads. So thank you for bringing that up, Councilor Jelinas. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Sure. Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Ward 2.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. And agenda item number 6, please.
Item number 6, order authorizing the city administrator to take the necessary steps to sell the city-owned properties at 10 Cody Street, 8 Doyon Avenue, 12 Doyon Avenue, 8 Dumay Avenue, 14 Glenview Avenue, 154 Golder Road, 48 River Street, 2 Roslyn Street, 1132 Sabata Street, 76 Switzerland Street, 4 Wicklow Place, and 1 Acorn Lane. Requested action to approve the order authorizing the city administrator to take the necessary steps to sell the city-owned properties at 10 Cody Street, 8 Doyon Avenue, 12 Doyon Avenue, 8 Dumay Avenue, 14 Glenview Avenue, 154 Golder Road, 48 River Street, 2 Roslyn Street, 1132 Sabata Street, 76 Switzerland Street, 4 Wicklow Place, and 1 Acorn Lane.
So
Okay,
moved.
thank you. I have a motion by Councilor Ray. Was there a second that I didn't hear?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Jensen. I have David Hediger presenting. Is he still there? Okay, Dale or Dennis, can you present on this?
As you, I'll jump in real quick, councilors. Just as you know, we had recently, the city recently accepted some bids. We put out 14 parcels for bid, vacant city-owned parcels. We received 12 bids, and that's what you're seeing before you. Our recommendation is to move forward with the offers that we did receive in that process, and those are listed in the resolve. I can go over all 12 of them, but they are listed right in there. And that's our recommendation, as I said, is to move forward with that.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, call the roll, please.
Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Ward 2.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7.
Item number 7, reports and updates.
Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 committees to report out on. So I'll start with school committee. As I'm sure you all know by now, we met last night with the subject of school resource officers. It came down to a 5-4 vote to maintain the current level of staffing. But we also discussed a memorandum of understanding between LPD and LPS going forward, just to clarify everyone's roles, because that was a big point of questions throughout this whole 2-month process. We also met on Saturday for 5 hours in a retreat to discuss attorney-client privilege, our procedural rules, which need a lot of work and it's hard to find consensus on currently. I'd also say we're revisiting the idea of subcommittees just because a lot of that work has stopped in COVID times. And so a lot of the work that needs to get done has not been getting done. And so we need to revisit that a lot too. I heard a reference earlier in this meeting to procedure at school committee meetings. And I would say we're having a very hard time with that currently. So we are going to continue to work on that like we did on Saturday with reviewing the charter, the procedural rules we have established for ourselves, but have not voted into place yet. And then also Robert's Rules of Order as well. And then for the county budget side of things, there's a meeting tomorrow. It's the last meeting of the county commissioners on the budget, and they do their public hearing tomorrow night at 5:15 at the county building. Then the budget committee steps in starting next Wednesday, and we do our work on that. During the last meeting, I let you all know that they're looking at a 3.6% increase on the tax levy. And I heard from some folks, but it would be great to get even more of a sense if people could reach out with their feelings, thoughts on that. A large part of that comes from about a 37% increase in their IT department. So I think that's kind of tipping the scales a little bit, but we'll get further into it with the budget committee process.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have reports or updates? I'm just going to give a very brief report on the Merrill Ad Hoc Committee. I think things are going pretty well. I think we have a great committee. I think they've been very clear. Almost all committee members have been very clear from the start that the goal of this committee is being part of the solution. And working closely with our chief of police. At no point has it felt like any type of an attack or anything like that. I think folks are really moving in a positive direction and reminding us all every time we meet that we're looking to do this fairly and as quickly as possible. We've invited members of the Lewiston Police Union to the meeting twice, and I think that message was conveyed to the police chief by our city administrator. So I think this committee is doing everything possible to get as much input as possible from all stakeholders. Anything you'd like to add to that, Dennis?
Just simply just confirm that we did make that invite, of the union to join, and for that. And I guess just quickly cover the process. I mean, we've gone through the first set of policies and procedures around use of force. And, basic, style is allowing the committee to hear a presentation. Obviously, these are very lengthy policies and procedures. Lots of work involved. The chief has done a wonderful job of, I think, presenting all that, giving the committee 2 weeks then in between our next meeting, and then coming back and reviewing more or less the information again, but allowing them to provide recommendations and dialogue and clarification. So that's been our general process, and we've gone through that first set at this point of, like I said, for those types of policies and procedures, and we're going to continue on for the next several weeks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Jelinas or Jensen, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I think that's a really good summary of what's been going on. I feel like we're just really starting to, and it's been a lot of presentation at this point, but I'm looking forward to more, cross dialogue.
Councilor Jensen, you all set?
Yeah, I'd largely agree with what everyone said. I don't know what Councilor Khalid has to add, but I pretty much agree with what everyone said.
All right, thank you. And I apologize, Councilor Khalid. I was looking at them too, not thinking, but is there anything you'd like to add as well?
Nope, thank you. I think it's been very well so far.
All right, thank you. Any other reports or updates from the council? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 8.
Item number 8, any other city business councilors or others may have relating to Lewiston city government.
Okay, seeing none. I'll entertain a motion.
Move we adjourn.
Second the motion.
That motion was made by Councilor Clement, seconded by Councilor LaJoy. Call the roll.
Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Ward 2.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you all very much, councilors. Thank you, staff.